Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of the 2019 edition of The Dish. If you haven't joined us here before, it's just a little Q&A session with some Dodger players. The first one here, the inaugural one, at least in 2019, here with Ross Stripling. Thanks, man, for joining us. I first want to ask, because we're going to get into some baseball here, obviously, but off the field, started a little podcast of your own here. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you decided to start it, who you've had on, what we can maybe expect from some of that?
Sure. So I have a buddy back home. His name is Cooper. He is essentially my wife's best friend's fiance. So I've gotten to know him through that. Basically, we've just always enjoyed kind of bantering back and forth, mostly about sports. He's a huge basketball fan, and I've kind of got him into baseball, and he's got me into basketball. Even though I played basketball a ton growing up, I kind of stopped following the NBA, and he got me back into it. And one day we just kind of had the idea to start it. He had always wanted to do it, and I didn't know much about it. And I started listening to ones like Pardon My Take and Joe Rogan, and really liked them, and decided that I'd give it a go with them. We'll give it a shot. And it's been a lot of fun. It's just kind of been a fun outlet for us as buddies to kind of like, man, put our phones away for an hour and just like chat, kind of like how we are right now. You know, that how often do you do that? So at first we were kind of just doing friends and people back in Houston. I got my agent on there. We got an old A&M quarterback. And then once spring training came around, then obviously the Dodger Network kind of came in, and we did Alex Wood and Kyle Farmer. They were my roommates in spring. Then we did Bueller, and then we did Kike and his wife Mariana. And those three have been by far the fan favorites. So it looks like we're transitioning into more of a baseball podcast than originally anticipated.
Season,
yeah, you know, just because that's my network. But we're also going to try and mix in some other things as well.
Where can they find it?
So it's on iTunes, and it's on Spotify. It's also on something called Podbean, which I have no idea what that is. But it's called the Big Swing Podcast. It seems like people have really enjoyed listening. It's tough to get it out there and to get listeners, but it seems like people have enjoyed it, and our feedback has been, you know, mostly positive. So we're gonna keep doing it moving forward.
I have to ask you about the shirt, but I'm going to wait a little bit till the end of the show here. But that's I'm sure you can see it here. That Motley Blue shirt became if you weren't a fan favorite already from that, I'm sure that added some followers maybe to the podcast here as well. But let's talk a little bit about baseball. I want to first start with last season for you, and you've been used to this role in bullpen and starting and kind of going back and forth. But to start in the bullpen and then end up an all-star starter, what was that whole kind of experience like for you?
Sure. I mean, it was a whirlwind. You know, went into spring training last year, and like spring trainings before I get built up. But last year, I basically knew I wasn't going to break in the rotation. I mean, there was 5 guys in front of me, and then probably another 2 that were still in front of me, and then it was me maybe, you know. But I get built up because, you know, you need guys ready to start if things go crazy, and then plus you need a long man in the bullpen, and that's kind of the role that I'd found myself in. And you know, bad things happen, man. Guys get hurt. It's just the way it is. And I guess it was the end of April, and we were just really short in the rotation, and I get a text late at night, like 11 o'clock after a game, and Doc texted me. He's like, hey, you're starting tomorrow. And I was just like, whoa. You know, I hadn't started a game. I mean, I made like a spot start the year before, but that doesn't really count. I really hadn't started a game since my rookie year. But like instant butterflies, excitement, just because that's kind of where my heart's been. You know, that's what I did in college, all coming through the minor leagues, and then obviously my rookie year. So, and then to end up being a guy that they relied on to take the ball every 5th day and really go out and give us a chance to win, and something that I'm really proud of, and you know, was able to make it to an all-star game, like you said, which is crazy, and then kind of just ran out of gas, and I'm sure most people have known. I feel like that's been kind of the story of the spring for me, is kind of telling people what happened last year. But basically ran out of gas, and then by the time I was ready and felt like I could go out and help the team win again, it was just kind of too late, and they were, you know, making their run.
Is there any way to combat that? I mean, I know in the role that you're in, that's kind of tough because you're used to kind of building up for a bullpen role, maybe a starting role. You kind of go back and forth a little bit. How do you fix that or plan for that in an upcoming season? Yeah,
well, you know, for one, now that I've gone through it, that kind of does it, I think. You know, you don't really know what 140 innings feels like on your body until you go through it. And I was able to do that last year when I hadn't really done it in many years before that, you know. So now that I was able to kind of get that workload under me last year, I know what to expect more this year. And by no means do you go out and like pace yourself, you know. Sure. It's still, I mean, these are big league hitters. You can't go out and be like, oh, I got to throw 150 innings this year, so I'm going to take these first 50 easy. Like that is just a disaster waiting to happen, you know. So, but luckily I went through that workload. I know what it feels like. So now I can, you know, kind of judge how my body feels, and when things maybe are starting to go downwards for me. I know maybe some things, and I'll speak up earlier than maybe I did last year, and just kind of be ready.
At what point when you're going through that last year do you realize, well, I really might be an all-star? Like, that might actually be a possibility.
Yeah, for most people it probably happens sooner, but for me, I think it was so out of the realm of possibility for me that I didn't even think about it until it popped up. I was like eating lunch in the lunchroom one day, and it like popped up as like potential all-stars or whatever, and my name was like at the very bottom, and I was like, what? Like, didn't even think about that, and then the first vote happens, and I didn't really think I'd make that first, I guess vote, whatever it's called, and I didn't, and then the Michaelis for St. Louis got hurt, and that's when you see the whole thing where Doc calls me in and all that. But really, up until, that like very preliminary, like first thing I did, it never even went through my mind. So that was pretty cool, just because it never even thought of that being a potential thing for me.
That's time that a majority of baseball players finally get a break and to breathe for a second, and they might have plans to go do something. How much did your plans change there? Was there like a set thing, like, okay, I'm going to go take off at this point in July? Yeah. What happened there?
So we had a mixture of plans. Some teammates were going some places, some others were going elsewhere, and we thought we might tag along on some of the trips. I think some went to Tahoe, but we hadn't made a set plan, which is good. But the logistics of getting, I don't remember where we were. We might have been in San Diego, or we were West Coast, to get all the way to DC. We land at like 5 in the morning that morning, I guess, and then get my family there, and it's just like a crazy 48 hours of just, you sign so many things, and you get all this stuff, and you take pictures, and it's just, the experience is awesome, and then you're trying to meet all these, those are the best players in the world, and you're just trying to meet them, and like, it's kind of, I feel like you're in high school, it's like Bryce Harper and DeGrom and like Scherzer sitting over there at the lunch table. It's like, do I go sit over there? Like, these guys have no idea who I am, so it was a lot of fun, an experience that I hope to get another one at some point. But like you said, probably when I needed rest the most, it turned into about the craziest 48 hours that I could have.
I'm going to look kind of forward here a little bit to 2019, but also kind of touches on 2018. You've talked about how working with Rick Honeycutt on the curveball and how he told you just throw it as hard as you can. How much does that change you as a pitcher, just kind of from not just a confidence standpoint, but what has that pitch just done for you these last couple of years?
It's taken a huge step forward for me. I think my curveball was always my best pitch, even when I probably wasn't throwing it quite as well as I am now. And for it to even take another step forward has been huge, because now it is something that I can show for a strike that then they have to basically commit to for the rest of the game. If I can show them that I can throw it for a strike, then they have to respect it. Now I can short it for strikeouts or in big counts or whatever, and then it also plays well with my fastball up. So throwing it with that same conviction and arm speed of a fastball just definitely messes with the hitter's eyes more than if I kind of cast it. Even if, I cast it, it's a good pitch because it has a lot of break, and that makes it hard to hit. But now it's coming out of the same tunnel as my fastball, so it looks the same for 55 feet, and then it breaks, So it's been a huge for me, and it's helped with the confidence for sure, just kind of knowing that's a pitch that I have in my back pocket that I can kind of throw in any count and expect to have success with it. And that's, but like very few, like Kenley, have one pitch where 2-0 man on third, I can trust this pitch for a strike and it not get damaged. So that's kind of where the curveballs come for me, and it can even take a bigger step forward. I need to throw it more. Friedman told me that he likes my curveball as one of the best ones in the major leagues, but I throw it like the 50th most. So he's saying like increase the usage,
Obviously, 2 weeks ago, even maybe 3 weeks ago, you're thinking, okay, I'm starting the year in the bullpen. A couple injuries happen. Get your first start of the season again. That went really well here. Got another one coming up. What have you learned from these last couple years in terms of how to prepare your body? And I know it kind of speaks to the fatigue a little bit that you dealt with, but what do you do to prepare for, okay, this week I might be a starter, next week I might be in the bullpen again? Like, have you learned anything from these last couple of years?
For sure. I almost have two separate routines. I have like a routine when I'm in the bullpen, what I'm going to do, and then a routine when I'm in the rotation. And I think what you do is you learn to just kind of listen to your body more, and you take advantage of days where you feel really good, and then you kind of scale back on days where maybe you're feeling a little bit tired. What's great for me is I think even if I go to the bullpen, I'll probably be not necessarily a long man, but a multi-inning role. So the way I prepare for a hitter or for a lineup is still the same. Like, like lefties, Tony Cingrani, for example, probably really only looks at Hosmer and Belt and like the big lefties. Like, he has an idea of what he'll do on others, but like he really dives into those big lefties. I have to look at the whole lineup because there's a chance that I'll face everybody. So it doesn't change my preparation a lot, that's a big help because that takes some time. So if you're trying to prepare multiple ways for multiple roles and all that stuff, you know, that can kind of boggle down your mind, I guess, and kind of take a toll on you. So luckily, I've just kind of found like one routine that gets me ready for like on the field, and then kind of have two separate routines that gets me ready like in the weight room and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we're going to get to your questions, I promise here, but do a couple questions here about some of the new guys. You faced AJ Pollock before.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that, and what's it like now with him being on your side?
Yeah, man, glad to see him in Dodger blue. He tears me up. You know, you always knew he was a good player, man. Phenomenal outfielder, can run down balls out there as good as anyone. And then, you know, I think on a per at bat, I don't know what it'd be, a per at bat rating in his career, he's like has a higher WAR than like Bryce Harper and some of these huge names. So like when he's healthy and on the field, he's as good as anybody. So definitely happy to have him over here. You know, I remember last year I threw him like a black fastball up and in, and he hit a homer. Like, I mean, it's just like to execute a pitch where you're trying to go and then it gets home, that's the worst feeling as a pitcher. So, like I said, happy to have him over here, and you know, expecting big things from him.
What have you liked about working with Russell Martin now? It's a little bit of a change here. You've seen a lot of different teams, a lot of different pitchers before, and does it take time to kind of get to know these catchers when they come in?
You know, Russell like fits that mold of like the veteran catcher that's been around. You know, like he comes in and he kind of not like commands the locker room. That's not really the right word, but he has a presence about himself that you just like know like he's going to be a good leader, and he's a great locker room guy. He's a good balance, kind of like Kirsch, where he's like kind of happy-go-lucky, kind of goofy, and then like when he needs to turn it on, it's like go time. You know, what's great about him and similar to like an AJ Ellis from my rookie year, he just really knows how to game plan. He knows you know what my strengths are. He's been around, so he knows a bunch of the hitters and kind of where to attack them. And something that Barnes is really good at as well. So now we got two guys back there that kind of excel at game planning, and then obviously are really good at both catching, putting the ball in play, drawing walks, all that. So he's going to be, you know, a huge asset for us.
All right, we're going to go kind of rapid fire here with these Twitter questions now. A really important one from Alex at Alex Esquez. Do you actually like chicken strips?
Yeah, you know what? Not really, actually.
Whoa, you got to be the only person.
I like a few. I like Chick-fil-A. Other than that, I've just never been a huge chicken strip guy. Yeah, more like a chicken sandwich, chicken nugget maybe, but like a chicken strip, no, I'm not.
Okay. Jessica at Parajess wants to know, will we ever get a full spring training video of your son?
I don't think so, man. I was mentioning that earlier. I think that's the worst thing I did was I made it rated R instead of PG-13. You know, I wish. There's a lot of talks that there might be an encore performance, so we might make that happen. If so, I'll make the lyrics PG-13.
Did you know about David Freese and AJ Pollock's musical abilities, or was that like a...
Not a clue. Literally not a clue, and I don't know how Dave Roberts knew either. Like literally one day we're just sitting in a meeting before spring training, he's like, you play the guitar? And to Freese, and Freese is like, well, yeah, well, AJ plays the guitar. And then AJ was like, well, Strip sings a lot. And I was like, well, Brock Stewart sings a lot. And all of a sudden we're a band, and we're putting on a performance like 5 days later, so it happened quickly.
All right, we're going to keep moving on. Craig Gordon wants to know what your favorite memory, we're going to go take this back here, your favorite memory pitching on the Chattanooga Lookouts.
Yeah, that is taking it back. 2013. Man, that league's a lot of fun. You know, that league's close to home for me because it's in the South. You know, you go to some great cities. I faced one of my college teammates in Pensacola, a guy named Brody Green. That's the first one that comes to mind. I don't know, man, that team was so fun. That had like Young Jock. Well, that's his nickname, but I mean like when he was actually young, like younger Jock. That was when Puig first came on the map. A lot of my buddies that I got drafted with were on that team. So just traveling around to like Pensacola and Jacksonville, and then obviously Chattanooga is a sleeper city. If you've ever been there, it's a blast. So maybe not one, but just the league in general is a lot of fun.
All right, well, we're looking forward to you pitching for the Dodgers, whether it's as a starter or a reliever or whatever it may be. Thank you so much for joining us on The Dish. This has been Ross Stripling. We'll see you later.